Hi, I'm Patrick Jagir with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to this video. Thank you for tuning in. This is a rune reading for the month of November 2022. So before we get into it, some quick orders of business. First off, I'm going to put my booking calendar in the comments below this video. So to book readings with me, to book astrology readings, rune readings, I Ching readings, whatever you want to do, it's all the same price. I'm going to put that in the comments. Makes for a really unique gift for Christmas, for birthdays, for any occasion. I'm out in the stores now. It's November, and I'm kind of seeing the holiday shopping panic getting started. So if you want to give something unique, I do readings in a very unique way. I'm going to start sharing more about that. So there you have it. Now, the other order of business, thank you to everybody who watches this channel, who likes the videos, subscribes, comments, shares. I think that's all of it. It's very helpful to the channel, and I find it very encouraging, and I appreciate you. If you're not yet a subscriber, I ask you to consider doing so. All right, let's get to it here. I'm going to do my damnedest, not going to take my usual forever to rattle this off, but can never make any promises. So I'm doing a rune reading for the whole world, not just America, even though I am American. Just making this universal. So nothing terribly crazy in the runes here. Really nothing that can't be rebalanced. So what I do I was taught a very kind of a rare and a different way of reading runes. And it's a 9 World Rune Spread. So it looks like a compass with the 8 directions and then one rune in the middle to make 9. Usually what you see is people will do 3 runes like past, present, future, and they'll do some other stuff. They'll maybe do like a 4 elements with the cross. But I love this. First time I saw this 9 World Rune reading, 9 World Rune Spread, I thought it was pretty amazing. So, and what you can do with this. So it's like if you get a rune reading from me. You don't just get a rune reading, but what I do is I give you a meditation. So, and you know, and in majority of, well, I don't know if the majority of rune readings, but in many rune readings, you're going to have at least one rune reversed, which is a blockage in energy. So it's not a sentence. It's not a prison sentence. You know, it doesn't mean like you're doomed or something. It just means you need to put your attention somewhere and basically adjust your perception, adjust your relationship to the issue at hand, and adjust your energy and your mind and your emotional and intellectual posture. And then the energy will rebalance. So if you have blocked runes, what I do is I find, and if there's multiple blocked runes, I find which one is like the key to the whole reading, which one is the linchpin that's going to rebalance the whole thing. And then I'll build you a meditation. So I give you a rune to chant in order to basically rebalance your mental energy. So it's about what rune you're going to chant, what direction you're going to face, and kind of some procedural, how are you going to do it? You know, you can do Galder, you can do it audibly, or this is something you can do silently. People get very strict and orthodox and dogmatic about doing it silently or audibly. You can do whatever the hell you want, because it's all about you. It's not about, you know, the church of Norse paganism and runes. So that's something you get out of a rune reading with me. So anyway, let's get into what's going on here for November. So there's an interesting, you know, challenge. And by challenge, I mean, you know, the imbalance in this reading, and then there's some good strength too. So the challenge in these 2 worlds, in the Northwest and in the Southeast, we have the reversals this month. So again, Northwest, that's the higher self. That is the Alfheim, that's the elf home. And the elves, not the little tiny people who make, you know, cookies and trees, but the shining ones, the humans who left the reincarnation cycle. So they're no longer students in Earth School. Now they're teaching assistants. They're like guardian angels. So that northwest direction, that is the portal to their world. So they guide and teach us. and they are called the immortals and the ancestors. They're spiritual immortals. So that world is blocked, and then the one across from it, the southeast, the Dwarf home, the Svartalfheim, that is Svartalfheim. That is the world of the lower self, the subconscious emotional self that deals with manifestation, intending your reality into being, and it deals with magic, among other things. So, and it deals a lot with individuality too, where like your identity, your personal identity really starts to form and coalesce. So in this southeastern direction, that is the portal to the Dwarf home. So the dwarves, when you see them represented in Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, this is symbolic, it's allegorical for the emotional beings of our lower self. So all of your emotions are independent living things. They're independent from you. They are of a lower order of being than our souls. So our souls actually start as dwarfs. They evolve to human souls, and then they progress and evolve to being shining ones, to being elves, to immortals. So the dwarves in the southeast, the immortals, the elves in the northwest. This is an axis that runs through this compass. Now, what you want is you want two directions of flow. And what you'll notice is on this northwest-southeast axis, you've got the middle world, the Midgard, Middle Earth. So that energy from northeast to southwest is actually a two-way street, because the elves in the northwest, they teach us in the middle, the human souls, but then they teach the dwarves in the southeast. And then the dwarves ask questions, they ask for guidance from us in the middle and from the elves in the northwest. So that's a two-way street. You want it to be a two-way street. Both of those worlds are blocked, so it means the higher self and the lower self are not communicating. We in the middle, the human souls, the energy between us and both of those worlds is blocked. So basically, our higher, our middle, and our lower are going in three different directions. And it certainly feels like it with just the chaos out there. Here in America, we have this clown freak show political contest coming up tomorrow, November the 8th, and the lunar eclipse and full moon. So it's like, yeah, people are scattered. I was just running errands today, and it's like, people are getting a little nutty. And they have been for a while, but it's building. So, yeah, I'm going to get more into this later. But so that's the challenge for this month, reconnecting the middle, the Ve, the Vodin, the higher self, and then the Vili, the lower self. And then, but what we do have on our side this month is the northeast to southwest axis. That is fully open and intact, and some very helpful runes there. So that northeast to southwest, that's a one-way street. You don't want a two-way street. If you get a two-way street, you get batshit crazy chaos. So northeast, that's super consciousness, the home of the celestial gods, the Asir, the Asa, and super consciousness, it's intuition, it's your awareness, individually and collectively, of everything that exists, ever will exist, and ever did exist. It's like you're all knowing this. And then the southwest, that's the Helheim, the Hel Home. That's the underworld, the unconscious. Yours individually, and then the collective too. So it's basically, it's like the repository of all information, literally. And then hell is also the underworld, where souls heal and recuperate between earthly incarnations. So it's a place of rest and healing and comfort. It's not a place of torment and torture and all that shit that the church turned it into, and the Pope even admitted. They made the whole thing about their version of hell up completely. So that road is completely open, and again, you just want that energy flowing from the northeast down to the southwest. You don't want any flow out of the southwest into the northeast. This can happen, and it's a condition of imbalance. So we don't have that right now. So we got that going for us. So let's start from the beginning here. So in the center, in Midgard, in the middle fortress, middle earth, middle world, we have this rune. It looks like a straight line. It's called Issa. It's an icicle. It represents an icicle, excuse me, among other things, but I don't want to go off on a tangent here. So I do have to make rune videos individually. So what this is represents psychological, emotional boundaries. And this is all about taking time to basically to have silence, stillness, and just time for reflection. And you need this. You need this to be yourself and to know what's going on in your own inner world. It's like when we're always surrounded by 50 of our closest friends and we're overstimulated and we're giggling, or people are pissing us off, you lose track of yourself and you start to blend with other people. And then people get up in your shit, you get up in other people's shit. It's just not a great deal. So we need alone time, we need isolation in order to recreate ourselves. Recreation is recreation. So it's time alone, isolation, to find yourself and know who you are. So that's where we are. For a lot of people feel like the world's coming down and the news is telling them that if, you know, the opposition political party wins the election and people are going to come and drag their kids out and execute them someday, you know, there's all this fear flying around. So it's really a time people are freaking out about the economy. It's a great time to just take some time out and just shut off the internet, shut off the TV, don't get into the news. Hang back from the whole social scene and just chill out and take inventory of yourself. So then we move on to the north. The north is the Nifelheim. Nifelheim is the mist world. This is a world, this is where energy comes out of the void. It's like a birth, but things have not taken form yet. There's still potential. And this represents what's coming. So in the scope of this reading, November 2020, this is the essence of what's coming for this month. So this rune, interesting rune, looks like two X's, one on top of the other. Sometimes this is just represented as a diamond. And this is a rune of incubation. So this is the Ing rune. This deals with Kundalini. And this deals with like a slow, smoldering fire. It's like hot coals, hot embers. You know, in Kundalini, the way I look at it, it's the energy of our personalities, the energy of psychological and emotional maturity. And it takes time to develop. So that slow, smoldering fire, it slowly rises and glows, works its way up the chakras. It's not an instantaneous thing. People force instantaneous Kundalini rises, and it drives them batshit. So yeah, this Ing rune, this Eihwaz, this is it's about incubation. So what I'm seeing here is that it's like, to me, a new dispensation of time is incubating. Mom and Dad's world, the World War II after party, 1945 to 2020, the age of spoiled bratness, spoiled rotten bratness in the Western world, that's over. So, you know, we had our time to be self-righteous about mommy and daddy and grandma and grandpa supposedly winning World War II. And it entitled us to be spoiled brats and imperialists and all that stuff. Well, it's all over. We're going into a new world. We don't know what that looks like, and we don't know how to be citizens of that world yet. So we're working on this. So that's what that speaks to me. It speaks to change incubating. So it's like I always say, it's like Donald Trump's not going to take over by Christmas at the right hand of Jesus, and Bernie Sanders and the ghost of Martin Luther King aren't going to take over by May Day. You know what I mean? We're going to have to work at this shit. It's not a QAnon special where it's all just solved for you. So, yeah, the future and change is an incubation. And then we move to the northeast. So northeast, again, Asgard, home of the celestial deities. Super consciousness. It's your hopes and aspirations. It's your intuition. So in this world of intuition, we have a rune called Kenaj. Kenaj is the torch rune. So a torch that you use as a source of light. So this is the rune of Loki, who is a light bearer, just like Prometheus, Lucifer, even Hecate, the goddess, lighting the underworld, with her torches. So this is the torch rune. This is a rune that allows you to look into dark places, look into the dark places within yourself so that you can know and understand what's in there. So our intuition is saying we need to take a deeper look into ourselves. And so this Asgard in the northeast has this special relationship, being across the wheel from the southwest, from Hel Home, from Helheim, from the underworld. So the intuition is saying we need to take a deeper look into the unconscious, into our emotions, our assumptions, because everything your intellect believes, my intellect believes, is based on emotional assumptions. So this is something that intuition is telling us. In this word, this rune name, Kenaj or Ken, it is where the word can comes from. So when you can do something, it means you have the authority under natural law, under spiritual law. You have the skill to do it, and you have the ability. And you have, the permission from, the universe and, from your own soul. So can-do attitude means, yeah, I'm going to do this. So this definitely has a get up and go, because these light bearers, these deities, like Loki, Rahu, Prometheus, Lucifer, they've got this get up and go. They're the fire under our ass. They're the spark that catalyzes action and evolution. All right, so moving on east to Jotunheim. Jotunheim, the giant home in the east. This deals with identity. And it deals with how we see ourselves. So the rune here, how we see ourselves in the situation at hand. So the rune here is called Ansuj. Ansuj, it basically means something like mouth. It's like the mouth of Odin. The mouth of Vodin, the mouth of the celestial gods. So the idea is that the celestials can speak things into existence. They can intend things into existence. They share with us, divine inspiration, things like that. Sharing the truth. So we see ourselves, and this is very important with the world right now. Everybody sees themselves as in possession of some truth, some higher truth, some indisputable truth. And with these ridiculous little clown freak show elections, this is how both sides see themselves. So on one level, this is speaking to all the self-righteousness and fundamentalism flying around in the world, politically, religiously, scientifically. On another level, we do all have a divine truth. We are all channeling higher beings, the immortals, the gods. But we have to get out of our own way. We have to align our egos with our souls. We can't do it in an out of balance fashion, because we end up squabbling and fighting with each other. And then moving on to that southeast, Svartalfheim, the Dwarf home, the land, the world of magic, intention, manifestation. So And this is the lower self. This is the subconscious self. Subconscious is in between the conscious and the unconscious. So in this world, we have a reverse rune. We have the Eihwaz reverse. Eihwaz is the Mars god of the North pantheon, or just plain old Tyr or Tiw. This is where we get the word Tuesday. So Tyr, the god of justice, the upholder of the law, and then he's a god of war, but he's a keeper of peace. He's like a mature warrior that knows, you don't want to have to go to war because nobody really wins. And so this rune, it looks like an arrow. It should be pointing up, it's pointing down because it's reversed. This arrow, this rune, it represents the spear of Tyr that upholds the law. It's your spinal column where your chakras sit. It is the world axis that links the middle world where we live to the heavens and to the underworld. And it's also a rune of justice, a rune of victory. So it basically means that we, right now, in this moment, we are not manifesting victory in peace and justice. We're manifesting a bunch collectively, not all of us, but collectively, the sum average. We're manifesting a bunch of bickering and squabbling and a bunch of nonsense. So this is something that's going to have to be resolved here. All right, so then moving on to the south, realm of action. This is Muspelheim. This is the fire home, the realm of fire. So this is also the realm of death. Can be physical death, but it can be like the death and rebirth that they kind of take place throughout your life. Different phases of your life end, and you have to cope with that so that you can basically sort of re-engineer yourself, remake yourself and be something more evolved. So different layers to the meanings of these worlds. So what we have here, we have a rune called Yera. So Yera is where the words year come from, and then the word gear. So in ancient times, people were more acquainted with, more knowledgeable about the cycles of the year, of the natural world, the sun, the moon, the planets, seasons, when they really lived it, and it wasn't, just an idea and, something to kind of, read about and just dabble in. They really understood how the year and the passage of time was like a series of gears. So there's that sense to it. Now, another layer to this. So it looks like basically two Pac-Men, and they're kind of fitting together, like the mouth of Pac-Man. So this also deals with cooperation. So it's like people, it deals with the tension brought about by basically familiarity and intimacy between people. So you start living and working with people. We're all different, so you're going to have different opinions about how to do things. And you want to keep things cooperative and harmonious, ideally. You don't want to just burn the house down just so you can get your little way. So it's about working things out and cooperating with people too. So in the world, I do see people making these efforts. Now, at the same time, they're not always genuine. It's like this whole pandemic amnesty thing. The people who are disseminating that idea through mass media and through the universities that teach all this political indoctrination, they're not being genuine about this. They're not being sincere. They just want to get off the hook so they can basically be bigoted all over again about something else. So, but people around the world, within this country, we are working to get the world back on its feet and cooperate with each other. All right, southwest, Helheim, Hel Home, the underworld, the unconscious. The rune here is called Berchtanaj. It looks like a bee. It's like a pointy bee. So this is the rune of the goddess Berchta or Perchta. The P and the B in many languages are interchangeable. Berchta or Perchta was a goddess of the spring, goddess of rebirth. It looks like a female body from a profile, so it looks like breasts with a pregnant belly. So it's a goddess of birthing and a goddess of rebirth, of new growth. So in the unconscious, this is a really good placement. So in the unconscious, this means that we are birthing just a new way of being, a new way of seeing ourselves, of looking at others, of approaching the world and information and resources, the whole bit. So it means we're really working on a rebirth. And that's very good. And that torch rune, the Kenaj up in the northeast, that torch is shining the light into here, helping us to understand how we can facilitate this rebirth. So then we move to the west. The west is Vanaheim. Vanaheim, the Vanir, are the terrestrial gods and goddesses. They are different from the celestials. The celestials live up in timeless perfection outside of time and space. The Vanir, the terrestrial gods and goddesses, they live in time and space. So the celestials are kind of like children. They don't have wisdom because time doesn't pass, but they have an extremely high level of awareness and knowledge, things like that, but not so much the wisdom. So in the West, the Vanir, the terrestrial gods and goddesses, very high level of wisdom because they live in space-time here with us. They are the deities of fertility, of agriculture, of nature. So they're more like grandparents. They're not extremists. They're not all about purity like the celestials are. So, your grandparents know what's getting worked up. They know what's worth getting worked up about, whereas like your parents will go crazy about the smallest thing. So yeah, these are the grandparents. They're very sympathetic, very empathetic to the human condition. I don't like the word sympathy so much. So the West, this is the world of also magic, but of sensuality, relationships, social activity, just enjoying the material world. In a reading too, this West, it stands for how you see, basically how you see the problem or the issue at hand, how it is relating to you rather than how you relate to it. So how the circumstances of the world are relating to us. So this rune, it's called Nautij, and it represents two cross sticks. So the meaning for it is need fire. So there are implications with this rune of sort of being under pressure. It's like you need to bust a move. You need to make something happen now. You need to innovate very quickly in order to basically save your ass. It's like if you're in a cold environment and the sun's dropping, it's winter, the sun's going down, you're cold. You need to get a fire lit. You might be wet and cold. You need to get a fire lit. You need to warm back up. You got to cook some food, melt some snow so you can drink some water. So now Tej, need fire. So this is all about, it's about when you feel stuck, when what you were doing, when the status quo with your usual modus operandi, what you have done in the past doesn't work anymore. So what you need to do is you need to innovate, you need to do something differently, but you may not know exactly what that is. So this rune is all about, you have a stuck feeling because you have to do something different. You don't know how to proceed, but you're on the verge of a breakthrough. So this means that we are on the verge of a breakthrough with how to basically remake the world. Now, in the grand scheme of things, you can be on the verge of breakthrough for years, and it's a blink of an eye in the grand scheme. But in a short amount of time, things are going to change a lot. Then we move on to the northwest. We move on to the final rune. So the northwest, again, Alfheim, Elf Home, home of the immortals, home of the humans who no longer reincarnate, who have graduated from the Earth School, and now they're the guardians, the teachers, the guardian angels. They are the shining ones. So this is a realm of the higher self. This is the highest spiritual advice. Before organized religion, spiritual ritual was all about communicating with who we call the ancestors, with these immortals. So, yeah, like I said, this is the higher self. So these beings, they teach us, the human souls, and they teach our dwarves, our emotional selves. So the rune here, this is another reversal. And this rune, it looks like a W because it's upside down. Usually it looks like an M, and this rune is called Eihwaz. So kind of like the Latin equus, which means horse. This is the horse rune. Horses are very special animals in many cultures. Horses were seen as the Odin's animal, an animal that had a lot of resonance with Odin. All throughout Europe, they talk about how horses came to Europe from a land across the Western Ocean, or land that used to be in the Western Ocean, in the Atlantic. So, and they say they were brought by a god who they all have a lot in common with Odin. So horses are very, they're very spiritually in tune, and humans have a very strong psychic link with horses. It's like if you spend, you can spend a couple hours with a horse, and basically you and the horse, your minds will kind of Bluetooth together, and you can basically, if your mind is clear and you're emotionally calm, you can think about what you want the horse to do, and the horse will do it. You don't even have to give it physical commands with either the reins or your heels. So, pretty interesting. So, yeah, this rune is all about, it's intuition all day long, and it's all about our relationships with divine guidance, with the guidance of the deities and the immortals, especially the Asir, the celestials, who are seen as the ancestors of humanity. So, yeah, this one is basically, there's two ways to look at it. Well, there's many ways to look at it, but one way you can look at this is that we sit on the spirit horse, and the spirit horse guides us and takes us where we need to go. And this is in a lot of the Grail stories, where the Grail Knight can't find the Grail Castle, and he's beside himself, he's frustrated, so he just drops the reins and the horse takes him to the Grail Castle. So it's all about letting the spirit horse guide you. The other way to look at it is that the immortals and the gods sit on us like a rider sits on a horse, and they guide us to where we want to go, and basically they guide us to the feeling that we want to have from life. So they guide us to our liberation and our spiritual destination, and our aspirations and all that stuff. So yeah, this is about intuitive guidance. And really receiving intuitive guidance. So this is reversed. So this means that, for one, we're not receiving right now, some average of all of us, we're not receiving intuitive guidance from the higher self. We're not listening to it. So the higher self is telling us, rebalance this condition, tune into the intuitive guidance, and you can rebalance yourself, or rebalance yourselves individually and your world. Okay, so real quick for the remedy of how to rebalance sort of the state of our minds through the month of November. So I've been doing runes a little differently. Now, if you want to start a shitstorm on the internet, the best way to do it is basically to have a different way of approaching runes because there's a lot of dogma around the interpretation of runes, and people get all kinds of pissed off, but here I go. So I've been using something called the Uttark. So usually the runes are called the Futhark, and basically what you do is you start the runes with the Fehu rune. I've been reading some of the runologists, the Swedish runologists, and what they say is the whole thing doesn't start with Fehu, it actually ends with Fehu. And the first one is Uruj, which is like the cosmic, the wild cosmic cow, which was like the first being that nourished the beings that came after it. So I've been using that, and that seems to make sense because Fehu is a domesticated cow. So in the Futhark, in kind of the mainstream, Fehu is a domesticated cow. And then the next one, Uruj, is the aurochs, the wild bison that cows came from. And it really doesn't make sense to start with the domesticated cow and then go to a wild one. But in the Uttark, you start with the wild cow, Uruj, and then the final rune is Fehu, the domesticated cow, which is where we get the word Fi. It stands for resources, because cattle provided all kinds of resources: food, hides, bone, tendons. You can make all kinds of stuff out of the cattle. They were the original form of wealth. So it makes more sense to me. You go through all the runes, all through the whole 24 runes, and then you're able to intend your reality and intend your resources, the Fehu. So that's what I'm doing. So do it the way you do it. I know in the comments section, people are going to be losing it and possibly trying to convince me to do it their way. So, all right. So out of both of these blocked runes, when you look at it through the Uthark, well, Futhark and Uthark, you get 8 physical runes, 8 psychological runes, and 8 spiritual runes. So the physical world is easy to rebalance. Spiritual world is pretty much always balanced by nature, but then the psychological one is the complicated one because our emotions and our minds are just tricky. So what I would do personally is, so the way I'm doing this Uttark, the Eihwaz, the rune that looks like an M for intuitive divine guidance, that's a spiritual rune. I put that in the northeast in Asgard. So that's already, the spiritual world is already balanced by nature. But then, in my reckoning, so the Tiwaj, the rune of the Mars god, the war god, the god of justice, Tyr, I put that rune at home in Alfheim, in the psychological, in the middle ring. So I want to go for the psychological one to get the whole thing rebalanced. So what I've been taught is a different way to relate to these. So what you do is you find the rune from the same of the 3 rings as the one that you want to rebalance. Same ring, opposite direction. So if you put Tiwaj up in the northwest in the middle ring, in the southeast in the middle ring, you get a rune called Uwaj. This is a representation of the yew tree. So yew tree is a tree of immortality. Its branches touch the ground, they grow into the ground, they form a root system, and they grow a new tree. So this is the rune of involuntary cleansing and involuntary transformation. So it's like you missed the boat for the voluntary cleansing and transformation. And in order to rebalance things very quickly, you have to, and possibly to save a situation in yourself, you have to go through the involuntary cleansing and transformation. And you can't control it. All you can do is surrender to the process and embrace the process. So that's the remedy. So what I would do for the remedy, face the southeast. And you can do this for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, a whole hour, whatever the hell you want. Do a meditative practice, do the Qigong, do some yoga. My Qigong downloads, all 3 of those practices are great for this. Heart Center Qigong is my favorite. So if you have to pick one, do that one. Do some sort of a meditative practice. Walk in the woods, anything that gets you there. Face southeast, facing water if possible, because southeast is the water element. And chant this rune. So this rune is Eihwaz. 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 And you can do this audibly, silently. One way to do it silently is on the inhale, you do the first syllable, and then on the exhale, you do the second. So in would be you silently. Exhale silently would be waj. Or you can do it audibly. You can just do you, something like that. Get more into different methods in some other video. All right, well, that was a while, and I'm going to sign off, but there are the runes for the month of November. Have a nice one.